Hey everybody, it is Matty here with Altcoin Buzz with you on this Thursday, and today we're talking about the CEO of Pantera Capital, who's saying that Bitcoin may go all the way to $356,000 by the year 2022. That's just 3 years from now. This is courtesy of Luke on altcoinbuzz.io. Flying in the face of that optimism is pessimism and FUD by way of the U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, who says the outlook for Bitcoin is bleak, so a pretty stark contrast there. Coindesk.com is covering that story, as is Cointelegraph.com. U.S. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin voices new pessimism about Bitcoin's future. We'll give you guys an update on Justin Sun, who has conquered his kidney stones, supposedly. But let's begin here. As far as Twitter goes, let's begin with the updates by Mr. John McAfee, who's seemingly back from the dead or back from incarceration. People had feared the worst, and if you haven't checked out Billy's video on the topic just the other day, make sure you go do that. There's all kinds of talk about the dead man switch that was going to be activated. It looks like that's been avoided here. But let's get you back up to speed with the latest as far as John McAfee's tweets and those of his surrogates. So first of all, here, this from July 23rd. Thank you all, good people, for the outpouring of support and offers of help following today's announcement. John has many friends in this world, some powerful in their own right. Rest assured, all are working to locate John A. Al. That's the first of 3 tweets. The second of 3 here. There are also some people that doubt the veracity of today's report. That is fair enough and can be forgiven, but you will find you are mistaken. This is not a publicity stunt. And that was my main criticism, or at least a thought that was running through my head, if I'm going to be honest with you. Finally, 3 of 3. To the few haters and authority-loving, bootlicking cowards rooting for John's demise, what more can be said but F off? Enjoy it while you can, because your time is coming. Hashtag free McAfee. Okay, those tweets were all from the 23rd of July. Looking at tweets now from the 24th of July, in this case just from 6 hours ago. Update via Logia on Fire. John Janus and his crew are alive and in the process of being released from confinement. For their continued safety, no more details are being given. Expect another update, hopefully from the man himself, tomorrow. Again, hashtag free McAfee. This from just a few hours ago. Update via Logia on Fire. I have spoken with John over the phone and can confirm their safe release. They are underway to a new location but have been forced to leave the Freedom Boat for now. John will be assuming control of this account again after travel. And finally, as per the most recent update that we have, for those of you that care, I know many of you are not big fans of John McAfee, but from a few hours ago, leaving detention. Don't judge my looks. 4 days of confinement. I was well treated. My superiors were friendly and helpful. In spite of the helpful circumstances, we've decided to move on. More later. So a little bit cryptic as far as what happened here. It looks like the Freedom Boat that John alluded to was boarded. They were put into confinement of one form or another. Let us know in the comments below. Do you think, as far as what we know now, which is very little, details are scant, but do you think John was released based on the contingency plan that he threatened with his dead man switch? I hear that was 31 terabytes of data, so just an incredible amount of data. I mean, it's anybody's guess what it could have been, but possibly some heavy stuff. Was that a factor in his release? I mean, now we're really speculating and getting imaginative here, but let us know your thoughts about that in the comments below, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army. Let's move on now to altcoinbuzz.io and positive news and opinion by the way of Pantera Capital CEO. He's saying that Bitcoin price is going to reach $356,000 by the year 2022. Article here by Luke. Speaking on the latest episode of the Unchained podcast, Dan Morehead, he's the CEO of Pantera Capital, said that Bitcoin could reach $356,000 in just 3 years. So in episode number 129 of Laura Shin's Unchained podcast, Dan Morehead, he's the founder and CEO of Pantera, made some interesting remarks about Bitcoin and blockchain. Among other things, Morehead gave a price prediction for the price of Bitcoin. During that podcast, Morehead and Joey Krug, he's the co-chief investment officer of Pantera and founder of Augur, discussed where we currently are in the development cycle of blockchain technology. According to Morehead, when looking at the price chart for Bitcoin over a period that is longer than a year, the Bitcoin price is always going up. Therefore, Morehead commented that at Pantera Capital, they do not worry about short-term fluctuations in the price of Bitcoin, and that they have more of a 3 to 5 year time frame in mind. Next, Moorhead said that if we graph the price of Bitcoin logarithmically, we will notice a, quote, typically consistent line. He explained, quote, at the beginning of this year, when we were at the bottom of the crypto winter, we graphed what it would be like if Bitcoin spent the next 12 months getting back to its trend line, and then from there out just stayed at its trend. And its trend has been to grow at 235% compound annual growth rate at the time. Bitcoin was around $3,000 to $4,000. That put Bitcoin at $42,000 by the end of 2019 with that math, which I know sounds crazy, but essentially we are halfway back there. It's right on the trend line. I think it's a good shot that by the end of the year, we hit that. And then if you just extrapolate that line out for another year, it's $122,000 per Bitcoin. And in one more year, it's $356,000. Now, of course, none of that is financial advice, and it is in Dan Moorhead's best interest to hype up the potential price of Bitcoin, thereby hyping up his own company. But nonetheless, it's based on some degree of quantitative analysis. If you want to check out the full interview with Dan Moorhead and Joey Krug, check it out. Unchained is the podcast. You can access it here in this article, which we will link to in the description below. In other news, we have some naysayers that are coming out against individuals like Dan Moorhead, notably the U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, who thinks the outlook for Bitcoin is actually quite bleak. This courtesy of Coindesk.com. So U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin commented on cryptocurrency's future viability in an interview on Wednesday. He said, quote, I can assure you I will personally not be loaded up on Bitcoin in 10 years, Mnuchin said on CNBC's Squawk Box. I would bet even in 5 to 6 years, I won't even be talking about Bitcoin as Treasury Secretary. I would like to take that bet personally. Mnuchin added, quote, we're going to make sure we have a unified approach, and my guess is that there are going to be more regulations that come out from all these agencies. Of course, on July 18th, Mnuchin erroneously claimed that fiat currencies are not vehicles for money laundering, while, quote, there are billions of dollars of transactions going on in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies for illicit purposes. True when it comes to Bitcoin, perhaps an exaggeration, but let's say it's in the ballpark of truth. But as far as what he said about the US dollar and fiat currency, I mean, one could not be more wrong. And as you may imagine, and thankfully several media outlets, including Squawk Box anchor Joe Kernan at the time, responded with incredulity. Tom Robinson, CEO of a research firm Elliptic, wrote an op-ed for VentureBeat claiming, quote, less than 0.5% of Bitcoin transactions are used for illicit purposes. And of course, if you didn't catch it the other day, we highlighted some research which suggests that as far as black market and nefarious activity, US dollar and fiat, let's call it in general, basically is used in that space versus Bitcoin at a ratio of about 800 to 1. So Mnuchin added later in the interview, I think, quote, the dollar is the reserve currency in the world. It's in our interest. We want to maintain it. That part, but to be honest with you, I can agree with it. The guy is the U.S. Treasury Secretary. It is his job to uphold the validity of the dollar and people's belief in the dollar, just like it's President Trump's job to do the same thing. So from that perspective, I can kind of respect what he's doing, and it's an uphill battle. I think it's going to be a lot harder in those 5 to 6 to 10 years that he alludes to, but nonetheless, that is the man's job. So as far as that goes, I suppose I can agree with him. You can read about the same story here on Cointelegraph.com. U.S. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin voices new pessimism about Bitcoin's future. Quick update to end things on. We're looking at Justin Sun, Tron Justin Sun, CEO, of course, of Tron, who had to cancel a meeting earlier in the week with Warren Buffett due to an ailment. He was suffering from kidney stones, which is no laughing matter. But according to this tweet, I feel so much better now. It seems I will be back to work with full speed this Friday. Hashtag Tron, hashtag TRX, BitTorrent, and BTT. So hopefully if he's back to work, things are up and running again. The conspiracies are going to be quashed, and nobody's going to be paying attention to those anymore because there were some that were circulating. And perhaps more importantly, beyond the operations of Tron, this means that we will ultimately get that meeting between Justin Sun and Warren Buffett, that luncheon. It should be a good one, and if and when we hear about it, we will update you and alert you to the news, of course. But that about wraps it up for today, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army. Do be sure you're following us on all the regular social media channels and keep checking back into our website, altcoinbuzz.io, for all the latest. Hey, go ahead, like, subscribe, share, hit the bell to receive notifications if you enjoyed this video. Best of luck. luck if you choose to invest, everybody. And of course, and as always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.